I lack another, oh, say $100,000 of completing the project. So I have to make the decision of completing the project, taking money out of my operating money that I would buy seed and fertilizer and water with, and gamble on whether it will be reimbursed to me. You know, I know a lot of you don't farm, and you have no idea what the stress level is on a farm, not knowing what your crop's going to bring, whether you'll have a crop at all. So these federal programs are security that we have to improve our farms. I took out probably a little over 2 miles of open ditch, concrete ditch that is probably 80 years old. So it's crumbling, it doesn't, the water seeps out, the water is open to evaporation. I put in about a mile of 12-inch pipe and about a half a mile of 15-inch pipe, and went underground to keep that evaporation and that percolation from occurring. I still lack, part of my project was 150 acres of grass, which is on some of my lighter soil, some of the soil that doesn't produce as well. So the government will help us to put it back to grass, to eliminate the wind erosion, the water erosion, and to hold that soil. So that's at the point I'm in with my project, is the seeding the grass and putting a liner in a giant earth tank that I built, and I'm at a loss. I don't know exactly where to move from here. I know that I've signed a contract with the federal government, and that if I don't honor the contract, well, then I'm in breach. But my concern right now is the opposite way. I'm very concerned that the administration that we have right now is not taking into consideration the long-reaching aspects of their cuts. The guys like me that are on the ground, out in the field doing the work, are going to be impacted greatly by these cuts. A little reassurance. You know, the Congresswoman said that they are not cuts; they're suspended. Well, in our eyes, that's the same thing. We're not getting our money when we need to, and I'm hoping to reach somebody that will use a little common sense in keeping these contracts. And it's not just the EQIP contracts. We have insurances with, like the NAP and the federal crop insurance, that are subsidized from the federal government. So if we have a hailstorm or a windstorm that destroys our crop, we don't go out of business. They keep us in business for another try. So I appreciate being asked to come and visit this morning, and I hope that we contact some people I hope that people are educated a little bit and can help us with this problem.
Can you tell us how much you might be out?
Right now, I was one of the lucky ones. They broke my project up into 3 sections, and I've been paid for 2/3 of it. So I'm out. I would probably be out about $85,000–$90,000 to complete the contract. So that's the amount that would be in jeopardy of not being reimbursed. Thank you.
And I think that this issue about right now, I think rural America is being betrayed by President Trump. Democrats made the largest investments in rural America since the New Deal. And what we're seeing now is that there is the largest cuts. So the Biden administration, the Democrats in Congress, made the largest investments in rural America since the New Deal in electrification. And what we're seeing now is Republicans, Trump and Musk, proposing we made the largest investments, and they are now proposing the largest cuts in rural America. Because when they cut SNAP, when they cut the nutrition programs, when they cut these positions, those are huge. And I want to remind everybody, because we can't say it enough times, that these proposed cuts are in order to fund the tax cuts for the wealthiest corporations and the billionaires. In the EQIP funding, the Biden administration and Democrats sent about $133.4 million to New Mexico, 52 million in the past year alone. So you can see that this is a significant program for New Mexico. It affects ranchers and farmers across our state. I want to, including in our tribal communities, I want to call up to the mic right now Yvonne Benton, who's the agricultural manager at Zia Pueblo. Yvonne.
Hello, everyone. Everything that everyone else has said, I agree with them. We do get funding from NRCS along with BOR. We do have an EQIP grant going that's going to be started here soon, and I called our grantor and she told me that it's still intact, so I'm glad about that, but that's for right now. I don't know down the road, you know. We do depend on these grants to help our tribe out with different aspects of agriculture. You know, one of them is ranching. We've got windmills out there that are so old, you know, that half of them don't work, and one of our projects is going to be to restore them, upgrade them to solar power for our cattle. You know, people are having to haul water out in 250 gallon totes, and sometimes they're driving over an hour just to get 250 gallons of water to their cattle, you know, and them pouring it into their trough, you know, those cattle are drinking it up before they leave. So they're taking 1-2 trips out a day, sometimes on the weekends, you know, and I think about them. So because of the distance, because of what they're paying for mileage, because of wear and tear on their vehicles, and because their animals don't have what they need to be healthy out there. So that's one of the projects that we have that's coming up, and I'm hoping it goes through because we really need that. Another project is for our farmers. You know, we don't farm commercially. We farm for our own selves. Our tribal members, they have areas to where they can farm on their own. You know, 1-2 acre plots to where, you know, my program helps them out with getting their tractor services done and helping them get ready to plant. They provide their own seeds. Sometimes we help them out with transplants and whatnot, whatever we can. But one of the things that we have a problem with are our ditches. So one of our other projects is on our south side of the Pueblo. We're looking at going underground now with federal funds, you know. So I'm hoping that, like I said, right now everything is still intact. I'm hoping that it continues to be that way because we really need help with our farmers. Our ditches are bad, and we're trying to get things done slowly but surely, you know. So yeah, that's really all I have to say right now. I agree with what these people have said, and we do need the funding, and I'm hoping that it goes in our direction, you know. For when it comes right down to it, agriculture, that's where a lot of our food comes from, including protein and, you know, everything, eggs. What we have here, you know, whether it's on a small base or a large base, we need this funding to help us. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. Jim Burlier is a rancher who runs cattle in Rio Arriba County. And having a conversation with a rancher earlier this morning at our earlier event, he pointed out that when you cut NRCS, when you cut the funding to USDA Forest Service, I like the way he says, you know, sometimes we don't really like the Forest Service, but we need them, right? We need them. And that they have little by little been making those improvements to the forest lands. They've been making those improvements to the pasture, and that with the cuts that the budget is describing, and the loss of personnel that we're already seeing, that he thinks it's going to set them back generations if we don't reverse this, because you need to get those soils healthy again. And if we have cut, we already know they've targeted some of the AmeriCorps and some of the Service Corps organizations, like up in Taos, because they have conservation in their name, because they're about they have environment in their name, they're about building resiliency. How crazy is that? That just because you're trying to protect from the environmental consequences of climate change, they're going to wipe out those programs that are going to help those forests withstand the next big fire. So Jim, come up and share a little bit about what you're facing.
All right, thank you. As she said, Jim Berlier, and I ranch in New Mexico, have been for many, many years. I've been thankful to have these NRCS and all the USDA programs in effect. Through them, I've been able to survive. We don't necessarily thrive, but we can survive if we have these programs. And they're not grants, just money given to us. They're voluntary, incentive-based programs that encourage us to do conservation work on the land, which in turn improves our productivity and the quality of our products that we grow, whether it be cattle, produce, as you see here, or whatever the case may be. But these programs have just allowed me and many, many more like me to stay in business, and we're just thankful for them. We're thankful that we have a Congresswoman here who's aware of what's going on, and that she'll be up there fighting for us. And we don't always know, because we don't always all get a chance to go up there and see what's going on, but this is a great time to get to see that she is concerned about it, and she's in position to be fighting for us in the Title II and the new farm bills, which this is included in, and we're just thankful to her for that. Thank you, and appreciate y'all coming. If you have any questions afterwards, I'd be glad to answer them. Thank you.
So thank you, Jim. And Robert William goes, and this isn't just a New Mexico problem, this is nationwide. And indeed, it is a nationwide problem, and we'll be able to get you the exact cuts for each state and district. We're compiling them right now. But part of the reason we're doing this is we think it's important that New Mexicans know what's happening here, but we also are going to share these stories. I'm going to take these stories, because my district looks like some of those Republican districts out there, right? And I'm going to take these stories and say, wait a minute, you need to be the kind of congressperson who's going to stand up for your constituents, for your agricultural communities, against a Trump or Musk. I think we need three. We need three patriots. We need three people who are committed to standing with their community instead of Musk. That's all we're asking. We're asking for three. The House has a very slim margin, and if three Republicans stirred with Democrats, we could beat this back. I want next one to turn. Yes, yeah. Come on, give us three. All it takes, it's a holy trinity of Republicans who are willing to stand with their community. The holy trinity for their community. Debbie Hughes, who is the executive director of the New Mexico Association of Conservation Districts.
Good morning. First of all, I would like to thank Congresswoman Leger Fernández for being so passionate about this and for fighting for agriculture. We don't have a lot of champions, but she's one of our champions here in New Mexico. The soil and water districts in New Mexico, probably half of them are co-housed with USDA, with NRCS, and so we know very well that cutting these staff is gonna hurt all of us. One of the things our association does is try to work with the state and the federal to bring more money to New Mexico, and we really appreciate all the money that this Congresswoman has brought for the fire and flood rehab for Calf Canyon, Hermits Peak. And our association is working, utilizing some federal dollars that so far are still here, but we are working to help improve all the acequias up in the Calf Canyon, Hermits Peak area. But we are just so glad. It is so important because without these staff, without the people working for NRCS, we don't have enough people to actually go out on the ground with the farmers and ranchers and figure out what kind of conservation practices we need to do. So thank you very much for inviting us, and we really appreciate all your hard work.
Thank you, and I think we can take some questions, and we'll open it up for that. Yeah. So, well, we have concerns about every single project, because what we saw the Trump and Musk do was actually say they weren't going to fund projects that Congress, they weren't going to send the money out. They've frozen the money. They've slowed the money down of projects that Congress approved and reappropriated money. And back to a civic lesson for those two men is Congress has the power of the purse. He's supposed to implement, the administration is supposed to implement what we authorize and what we fund. And he does not have the legal right to not spend that money. Now, so we are concerned about all projects. Now, we did get I did increase the authorization for the Navajo Gallup project recently. And we did see that the Bureau of Reclamation and the federal agencies did already commit to that money that they needed to move that project, because they were going to run out of money in December for Navajo Gallup. So we think that that money is still flowing, and we haven't heard anything about any problems with the Powhaka. I actually have an additional 5 Indian water rights settlements bills. I am keeping up hope that we'll be able to move some of those into law. For some reason, those have not been on the scope, but we don't think anything is safe at this point. The Hermit's Peak Calf Canyon fire money is separately appropriated. It's sitting in a separate pot. My hope is they're not going to touch it. But at this point in time, because they are acting unconstitutional in a manner that is illegal, we can't guarantee what they will do, but we can guarantee what we will do, which is there'll be lawsuits, there'll be hearings, there'll be actions, there'll be calls. So we will do everything we can to raise the voices to protect that funding. Anything else? Oh, hello.
Hi, Kathy with the Albuquerque Journal. So am I understanding correctly that some equipped grants are moving forward and some are frozen? And do we have a breakdown of
We'll be able to give you that breakdown in a bit. What USDA is now saying, oh, it's only the ones that were funded by the Biden administration. So that's what we heard recently. They didn't say it was the Biden administration, but it was the money that we funded, right? And so, but what it's creating is an individual rancher or farmer doesn't know whether their money came from the increases that we put into place or whether it was the regular. So we're trying to work that out. And part of the problem is that because they have cut positions and fired people, there is nobody to answer that question. You might have heard that from Robert, right? Have you gotten your calls returned?
No.
They're not returning calls. So we don't know which ones they have decided are old equip versus newly funded equip. So, that's one of the things we're trying to figure out, and they're not talking to us. Like, normally, I always say that we're the WD-40 for the federal agencies because we have a special number, we call up, we unstick things, but they're not answering anybody's calls. And I feel so sorry for them because these are people who are committed, but they have been told by the political nature is don't talk. Okay, so under the Biden administration, producers in New Mexico received $133.4 million. That's what we authorized. That program is paused So we don't know. There was a 29 million in 24, and then 22 million from the Inflation Reduction Act. So it could be that they're only targeting that 22 million when they say Biden, because that's the Inflation Reduction Act. So $22 million is a significant amount of money if that is indeed what they are doing. But because they don't answer the phones, we don't know.
So who exactly is enacting the freezes? You know, the executive order that the president signed was blocked by a judge, and then I believe the Trump administration said that they were rescinding that order. So where exactly are the freezes, if there are freezes, coming from?
So they have taken the position that sort of the blanket freeze, that everything got frozen. The judge said you can't do that, and then these kinds of freezes or slowdowns are examples of them saying, oh, but this is not violating the court order, right? And right now the court is saying, I think you are violating the court order. And these folks back here and our New Mexico ranchers and farmers are caught in that gray zone where the Trump administration is trying to say these are not cuts, right? And this is not a formal freeze. We're just slowing it down. But once again, we get back to, if you don't have the people to process the payment, then it is essentially you didn't get your money, right? And that's what people like Robert are worried about.
Right, and then Donovan Quintero with Navajo Times. I'm not sure if this could directly impact Navajo agricultural products industry, but if it does, how would NAPI be affected?
So NAPI, the Navajo Agricultural Product, is just an amazing, if anybody hasn't gone up to Northwest New Mexico, it's a program that is part of a settlement, is part of our trust responsibility to fund. And so funding that they are getting directly should flow. But what we are seeing is that the Trump administration is also confusing tribal monies as DEI monies, right? It's about diversity, and they're treating tribes as if though they are a diversity program and not a government with which we have a government-to-government relationship and a trust relationship. So what we are doing is we are working, because we have identified across the country funds that are supposed to be going to tribes that are being held up because they are being treated as diversity. We know that in the education realm, they are now targeting minority serving institutions, Hispanic serving institutions, and potentially tribal colleges. I need to tell you, I think every single one of our higher institutions in New Mexico is a minority serving institution. When they target all minority serving institutions, they are targeting every single higher education institution in New Mexico. Any more?
If I could, when you asked me if the office was answering their phone, well, you got to realize these employees that we're dealing with have about as much idea of what's going to happen as we do. So I don't think it's not a local office deal. They're very helpful when they do answer the phone. I honestly feel that they just do not know what is coming down.
In regard to agency staff who are having to respond to our questions about the status of funding, I also wanted to share that our nonprofit has a cooperative agreement with NRCS to do outreach to communities, and we've been doing mainly disaster recovery for the past 2 years and working with acequias and producers on applying for disaster programs through NRCS. And that work hasn't been reimbursed. First, the website was frozen. The portal to ask for reimbursement was frozen. Then it got unfrozen, and we were able to upload our funding request, but the funding request is not being processed. And when we have had contact with agency staff at the national level, and they said that they're waiting for guidance on what to do with our pending request. And we're concerned that those positions are at risk with all of these funding freezes and cutbacks. They're civil servants, you know, they're career professionals, and I think it hurts them as much as it hurts us to see these programs frozen. And the program that we're associated with in our cooperative agreement is called Equity and Conservation. And we think maybe it got caught up with the DEI sweep, where there's some perception that we're doing something, I guess, that's not in line with Elon Musk's idea of what government should be doing. But for us, equity means helping everyone in rural, underserved communities. And the communities that we assisted as NMAA were Lincoln County, when they had the post-fire flooding in 2024, and in Rio Arriba, the flooding that happened there in the summer of 24. And so that's the work that we're doing. And we don't consider that necessarily DEI. It's helping everybody that needs help. But unfortunately, the Trump administration and Elon Musk are taking issue with it. And never in my wildest dreams did I think that a billionaire would be calling the shots on the work that we're doing for the people in our communities and in our state.
So we're very fortunate. We have a Farmer Innovation USDA program grant, and we're able to put funding back out into the community. We just went through a grant round of applications, 75 farmers from across the state and ranchers who have really innovative programs, new solutions to agriculture, putting food on tables in our state. We reached out to the office at USDA yesterday asking for a conversation to make sure that we're on task with everything. And we've been on speed dial with them. They've been awesome to work with. And they said, I've been instructed to hold off on all meeting until further guidance is issued by leadership. So unfortunately, we don't have that communication. And these are people we really care deeply about at USDA who've been incredible partners with us on new programs.
If there are no more, hello, Albuquerque Journal again.
Do you think that these disruptions you're seeing in the agricultural fields could have downstream effects for like hunger in New Mexico?
Oh, absolutely. And that was one of the conversations we had upstairs, is that so there's two things. One is there's the disruption, and some of the programs that are going to be hard hit is the programs where we were we had worked on increasing the ability of these nutrition programs to buy local, to purchase from farmers, some of whom actually also are on nutrition programs because they don't earn enough money, right? And so this is a race, so I'll just talk loud. So we are seeing that is a very big concern. Some of, like the Food Depot, gets 30% of its funding and its ability to fund from some of these federal programs. We have Clovis, McKinley, and Farmington, all of my districts, get 90% of their food from these agricultural programs, from the commodity programs, from the ones where we're now buying locally from local farmers. So when you cut off that much funding, we are going to see people go hungry. And the other thing that we are seeing is that they want, for the SNAP programs, when they say we want to cut these nutrition programs, they're saying, oh, because there's inefficiency. There is not inefficiency in them. What we have is there's an oversubscription. And when they say we want to do work requirements, they have shown that people are already working unless they're disabled, their children, or they're disabled, their children, or they're elderly. They're homebound. So you have people who are already working and they say we're going to put work requirements. How are you going to put work requirement on that kid? How are you going to put work requirement on that 80-year-old? How are you going to put work requirement on the person who cannot leave their home? And so we know that if they do that, there's going to be a lot more hunger. And with what they are doing in terms of wrecking the economy, with the tariffs, with these cuts, so people, they're creating unemployment. Remember, in New Mexico, we have almost 19% of our population is employed in federal government. If they have these cuts, you're going to be increasing the demand for nutrition programs, and we're not going to see the ability. And as it was pointed out today, that we cannot rely on charity to pick up this amount. I think one of the numbers that we heard today was about a $300 million cut that we don't know who would make that up. Does the state have an extra $300 million? Probably not. Right? And once we get past, and that's the other thing about this uncertainty, is the state is doing its budget now, assuming that the federal government's going to honor its obligations, right? And you just can't make up $300 million with charity. It just doesn't happen. Thank you for the question. With that, I think the train has decided this conference is over.